103.1 WRNR FM, Graysonville, Annapolis, and Baltimore. Michael Buckley with you here on the Sunday Brunch on RNR. It's just a few minutes after 9 o'clock. And that's around the time each week we try to do an artist interview. It comes off in different ways. Sometimes we get out in the field and do some pre-recording and mix up some music. And sometimes we got the artists, if we're lucky enough, right here in the studio. And that's the case this morning with our guest, Evan Chapman, who comes out of Ellicott City, Maryland here, and is making waves with all kinds of interesting interpretations of songs that are familiar to us through YouTube videos and that kind of thing. How are you, Evan?
Doing great. Thanks for having me.
Good. Yeah, it's really good to have you here. And Randy Loftus is with us here, too, doing some photography. Randy was the one that cued me into the music of Evan Chapman. And so the first kind of YouTube video I saw of you was playing the vibes, the vibraphone.
Yeah.
And doing all kinds of layering and all kinds of stuff like that. Take me back and tell me a little bit about, your how you grew up and got into music and, on the road to doing this very interesting and experimental music.
Yeah, well, I've been playing drums for a while. I started, I think, in fourth grade. And before then, I played piano, so I learned how to read sheet music and everything before I learned drums. And I started just playing drum set, just only drum set in rock bands and punk bands and cover bands and stuff.
What were some of the bands that probably people around here might remember? Ellicott City's finest punk bands.
I was in a lot of bands with my brother, one of which was called Repeater. I was in a band called Oh the Story for a while. Man and Dog was another one. There's a couple bands.
I see people in the audience doing backflips. Go,
yeah.
Oh, yeah, I remember that.
I remember them. Yeah.
I barely.
Yeah. So I played drum set for a while, and then when it got time to start looking for colleges, I decided that I kind of wanted to more go the classical percussion route of things and look for classical music schools with more of a focus on, orchestral music. And so I started learning some of the mallet stuff that's in my YouTube videos, like the marimba and the vibraphone and everything.
What's the difference between those two?
So a marimba has a lot bigger range than a vibraphone. The bars are wood as opposed to metal on a vibraphone. The vibraphone has a sustain pedal like a piano, and the marimba doesn't. So yeah,
it's like the infinite note if you keep your foot on the pedal kind of
right,
thing.
Yeah. You get a lot of not a lot of forgiveness when you're letting all the notes hang over. But so once I got to college, started really practicing those sorts of instruments, not the drum set. And that's where I started to get into, arranging songs that I'd already liked from my, years of loving rock music. And then I just tried to find a way to combine the two worlds and start playing rock music on classical percussion instruments.
So what were some of the songs that you were doing that were covers, as we call them, when you cover the song with your own arrangement of somebody else's popular song? Yeah,
a couple of the ones I've done Kid A by Radiohead, which I see a nice, beautiful Kid A.
That's right, we got the award-winning, they used to be big records framed up with the album cover, but now they're little CDs framed up with a big album cover, though.
Right.
Everybody's proud of Kid A. Yeah, it's life-changing music for a lot of people, yeah.
For sure. That was one, and there's Holocene by Bon Iver is another one, which is one of my all-time favorite songs.
What a beautiful song that is.
It's gorgeous, yeah.
His whole thing is making beautiful songs.
Absolutely. Yeah. Somebody That I Used to Know by Gautier is another one, which I think was what you guys first saw by me. Thanks to Randy.
Yeah, Randy heard that one there, yeah.
Yeah, so those are just a couple of them.
That song's slightly familiar to a lot of people, right?
Right, yeah.
Yeah. So explain to people what maybe while we listen to this first track that you've asked me to cue up here from your latest album, what this process entails here.
Yeah, so... do you mean the process of the covers or
of the layering? Of the
right?
Yeah.
So in most of the cases, it's just me alone in a in a room, and I just record a whole bunch of tracks over each other. So I'll probably start with the rhythmic, like drumming track, if there's going to be shakers or cajon or tambourine or anything, just to get a fundamental rhythm track, and then I'll just figure out some of the harmonies from the song. and usually I end up doing those on vibraphone or something like that. And then I'll write out the vocal melody. I'll write it out on staff paper, and so yeah, it just usually starts with a fundamental rhythmic layer and then some sort of harmonic thing, the chords of the song, and then I'll do the vocal melody on top of it. And then after that, I just try and find some effects that can fill in some of the other parts of the songs. Like in the Gautier cover, I used Natalie and I were blowing on some beer bottles for some I think it's a background flute noise on the original album. And
cheap instrument, huh?
Yeah, right.
Always around.
Always around. Yeah.
Various shapes and sizes.
Yeah.
Various amounts of beer left over from last night.
Right, we had to tune them with different amounts of liquid. So
what about this one we're hearing now? You can't hear it, but it's called On His Chest. It's the 7th track from the new album called Spring Forward.
Yeah, this is from my solo album, which I just came out with. This is the first time I've ventured into doing any original work that people have actually heard, which was kind of a big jump for me. And in this case, this is one of the, I think, 3 songs in the album that actually has full drum set in it. And yeah, it's just built off of drum set and some electronic keyboard sounds and percussion, so a lot of the same sort of layering I would do for the YouTube videos.
Let's check it out. This is Evan Chapman on 103.1 WRNR. So definitely trap set prominent in that
sure,
one. Yeah, right down to your roots there. Huh?
Yeah, that one actually, I started with the drum set track, and I actually didn't know what anything else was going to be. I just laid down a groove on the drum set, and then just started filling in things on top of it. So that one, I think, is one of the only cases on the album where it only started with a drum track, and then I added everything else later.
And so you mentioned Natalie. Who's Natalie?
Natalie is a harpist friend from I go to school at Indiana University, and she's a harpist out there, a music major as well. Incredibly talented, and she has a couple of her own harp cover videos, like, sort of along the lines of my percussion videos, where she'll cover, pop songs on harp, which is really, really awesome. And I think the harp is a gorgeous instrument. And I think I posted a Facebook status one day about that Gautier song, and she replied, and she was like, "Man, we should do a harp percussion cover." And I was like, "Man, we should. That would be awesome." So we got together, and she had tons of wonderful ideas just about how to arrange the song for harp, because I don't know, the first thing about harp, and I wouldn't be able to write for it or anything. And so it was really cool having her, input, and she really made the song, I think, speak really well on the harp. So
isn't it kind of similar to the vibes? I mean, it kind of has those long ringing notes.
Yeah,
and it has kind of the spectrum of notes all laid out in front of you,
right,
at a different angle, But
yeah, and I definitely learned through that I feel like harp and percussion really, really complement each other well. I think it's a good combination especially vibraphone and harp is like one of my favorite combinations of music ever. So
the second track on the album, Spring Forward, from Evan Chapman, who's our guest here on the Sunday Brunch Artist Interview, is called Patient. And why don't you introduce that one while we listen to a little bit of that one? These are all instrumental, right?
Yes. Yeah. I wish I could sing, but we're only stuck with instrumental for now. This track, Patient, I've always been a huge fan of minimalism, and Steve Reich is one of my favorite composers. And this one was sort of a take on that. I think as the name implies, it's sort of a patient track, and slowly adds in layers as the song goes, but has a pretty driving keyboard, a Rhodes part throughout. So this is a little more chill. There's no drum set in it, so it's not a drum driven one like On His Chest. But yeah, it's just my take on a little minimalist stuff.
Steve Reich was credited by Pete Townsend as being the inspiration for the intro to Baba O'Reilly.
Yeah. I can definitely hear that.
Evan Chapman on 103.1 WRNR from the new album Spring Forward. So this one has that kind of sense of that foot pedal when it's down,
absolutely,
right? And you hear
yeah.
the notes kind of bouncing off
for
each
sure.
other and
Yeah,
rolling off. And
yeah, all sustained pedal completely down for that one, for sure.
It also has a sense of that Philip Glass kind of thing there,
absolutely,
too.
Yeah. He's another favorite, for sure.
Yeah, I worked with Philip Glass one time in New York City. He came down from Canada in a group called the Malibu Mines.
Yeah.
A theater group, yeah. And they did this very interesting theater in New York City for many, many years.
Awesome.
And, he's gone on to greatness.
Absolutely.
He was also one of those guys that was propping up Moondog. We were talking about Moondog earlier, as was Steve Reich, too.
Mm-hmm.
Good Sunday morning music too, try to get on that
That's
vibe.
a good compliment.
Yeah. I have this feeling that your phone's going to be ringing off the hook pretty soon, because this stuff lends itself to soundtracks and to commercials and all that kind of stuff. Have you thought about that, or have you had any opportunities like that?
Yeah, absolutely. I think definitely one of the most frequent things that people have said about this album is that it definitely lends itself to soundtrack material. And my best friend just recently, he's a filmmaker, and he recently made a short film that features part of one of the tracks on this, which is really, really great. But I'm definitely going to be on the lookout to, see if some more people would like to use it, because I definitely think it lends itself to that. And I'm a big, I really like movies, and I like making films and making the YouTube stuff, so I definitely have the video part of my heart and brain alive. So yeah, I'd like to get involved with that scene for sure.
Seems like a really good time for putting those two together now that people are clued into YouTube and all
absolutely.
That. And it's almost a regular part of life, and it's a good thing since there's not much on TV usually. You can always
right.
turn to finding something interesting on YouTube. So tell me about the process a little bit more. You work on this thing. You use a lot of what's called looping and that kind of thing. Talk about the process. We originally asked Evan to come in here and perform these songs live, And tell everybody what your response was. You know, you'd have to bring in the whole garage.
Right. Yeah.
With the band.
So I haven't exactly figured out how to do this stuff live yet. I'm working on it. I'm trying to get some other people on board and just figure out technically how to pull it off, because a lot of my tracks, I mean, on any given YouTube video, for example, there will be basically like 30 different copies of me playing different parts, and it's just recorded all on top of each other. So usually when people are faced with that problem, they'll get like some sort of loop pedal or something so they can, record themselves as they're playing it live, and then let that run, and then play on top of it, which works wonderfully if the parts aren't changing under, like if something's repetitive. But in the case of a lot of these songs and the YouTube videos, the parts themselves are repetitive, but they're actually changing while the other parts are changing. So I'm still trying to figure out how to do that by myself. But I think I've gotten a couple people on board that might be interested in joining forces and maybe making some sort of ensemble that could play these live. Maybe just a couple of times. I'd love to somehow pull it off live. But yeah, I mean, there's tons of huge percussion instruments. The marimba is ginormous and the vibraphone is ginormous. I mean, it's not that big, but
So where do you sleep? I mean, you got to have somewhere to put your roll out your sleeping bag in your bedroom.
Well, the other part of that is I don't actually own most of those instruments. I've been borrowing schools and stuff, because these are, I mean, along the same big purchases as a piano would be or anything, and when you're using multiple different instruments for a single track, it definitely gets expensive. So I'm hoping to build up my own, arsenal of instruments to start playing live.
You'd be like the organ player, the Hammond B3, dragging everything up the stairs while the singer's saying, see you later, I go to the party.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, it's great having you here. I really appreciate you coming in
and
playing some of the music here for us, and hope you'll come back and join us again.
Yeah, definitely. Thanks so much for having me.
Evan Chapman here on 103.1 WRNR out of Ellicott City, and by way of Indiana University.
Mm-hmm. That's correct.
Which is one of the great music programs, I understand, in the whole country. So.
Yeah, I'm really enjoying it out there. The music program was definitely what brought me over to the Midwest. So I'm loving it for sure.
It's 103.1 WRNR. Evan Chapman, our artist interview for today here on the Sunday Brunch. We'll take a break right now, a few minutes, and be right back with part 3 this morning of Voices of the Chesapeake Bay, where we're talking about jellies, jellyfish,